Hello there YouTube, my name is Tyrvan, and welcome to my video response to the YouTuber known as Bruce Shepard. In this video, we're going to be discussing the difference between the terms agnosticism and Gnosticism, and how they relate to atheism and theism. Before we start the video, we actually have to look at the etymology of the term atheism. Atheism's root word atheos is Greek for without a god or gods. This etymology is important because the definition of atheist does not suggest an actual claim that there is no god, unlike what Bruce will try to posit once or twice. So without further ado, let's get underway.
Hey YouTube, I got one last point to make about all of this atheism as a default position debacle that's been going on for the past few years or so. Lack of belief means without belief, right?
Correct. I would say that a disbelief would be a lack of belief. I would just say disbelief instead of a lack of belief, so that I would not use my term as its definition. It's just to nitpick there.
How do you come up with this term that it means without knowing? How is lack of belief converted to lack of knowledge?
Nobody is suggesting that disbelief is a lack of knowledge. I believe the term you're looking for is the term agnosticism, which means without knowledge or knowing.
See? You're bullshitters.
Now, I don't know whether you've been paying attention to this debacle as closely as you state, but I will take your word for it. Now, if you've been following it closely enough, you will have already been corrected enough times on the issue of the difference between disbelief and agnosticism that I can assume that you're either ignorant of those around you and the definitions that they're using, or you are indeed bullshitting your peers on YouTube.
Lack of belief just means that you are without belief, meaning you don't believe in something, you have a disbelief about something, and you're basically denying.
Correct. Disbelief is the lack of belief, or the act of not believing. I do not see an issue with this. However, you are so far trying to state that atheists equate disbelief with a lack of knowledge. This is not the case.
Okay? That's what that means. It does not mean lack of knowledge or understanding and ignorance. Lack of belief does not mean ignorance. Where did you ever get that from?
So far, we both agree that disbelief does not necessarily mean ignorance. The difference between you and me on this issue is that I seem to be the only one of the two of us that realizes that absolutely no one is equating disbelief with ignorance.
I've gone over this so many times, I'm sick of it.
Now, at this point, I can state with some degree of confidence that you're not just ignorant of the difference between disbelief and agnosticism, and you are, in fact, lying. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not an ad hominem attack. I'm just calling you out because I'm sure that my counterparts in the atheist community have corrected you numerous times.
Without belief does not mean without knowledge of. So you can't play that ignorance role. That's absolutely stupid. It's bad enough that you want to change the definition of atheist to suit your own perspective of what you're labeling yourself. But you changing the meaning of the definition itself.
Oh, really? I was never aware that atheism meant anything different than a lack of belief in a god or gods before. Would you be willing to provide a previous definition for me, please?
Lack of belief does not mean ignorance. It does not mean without knowledge.
Once again, no one is suggesting as such.
It means that you don't have a belief in something. These types of atheists are playing this game because they don't want to be accountable to having to be confronted about making a claim that God doesn't exist.
This is where we come to define our third term in this video, Gnosticism. Gnosticism is the claiming of knowledge of a particular subject. With the two words Gnosticism and agnosticism, one can now provide two subgroups for atheists and two subgroups for theists. These subgroups are of course labeled Gnostic atheism or theism, the position that the person has knowledge about the existence of a god or gods and either disbelieves or believes in a god or gods based on that claimed knowledge. And agnostic atheism or theism, the position in which a person does not have knowledge about the existence of a god or gods and either takes what is known as the null hypothesis or believes in a god or gods anyway. With this background information out of the way, now we come to the flaw in your statement. You state that atheists who are saying that they do not know if a god or gods exists, we'll call them agnostic atheists from now on, are in some way claiming that a god definitively does not exist. This claim that there is no God is the claim that Gnostic atheists posit, not agnostic atheists like me. Only the Gnostic theists and atheists have to prove their claim that a God exists or a God does not exist, respectively. Based on the requirements for the burden of proof, it is you, the Gnostic theist, not me, the agnostic atheist, who needs to provide evidence for the existence of a God.
When I first joined YouTube, I noticed this thing going around where atheists were saying that God doesn't exist, and we confronted them on that. We went to them on that and say, well, you have to pretty much know everything to say that there's no evidence for God at all. You know, when they went into that whole thing about, oh, there's no evidence for God, that's a bunch of bull crap. A lot of people see different kinds of evidences in different ways and accept the belief in God that way.
While I do agree with you that it is silly to posit that there's no evidence for God ever, I have to state that currently there is no evidence for a god or gods.
But when you want to play games because you don't want to be held accountable for making a claim that God doesn't exist or there's no evidence for God, now that then they turn around and say, well, we just don't know. And that's where we have a lack of belief. And lack of belief means that since a baby doesn't know at birth, that means they're atheists at birth. No. Lack of belief does not mean that you do not know. It's lack of knowledge. It's two whole different things. Totally different things. And how you correlate the two as being the same is beyond me, and it's beyond comprehension.
Stop asserting this. You have repeated yourself so many times it's unreal. Once again, no one is positing that a lack of belief is synonymous to ignorance. This is why atheism answers a kind of question and agnosticism answers another kind of question. When asked, quote, do you believe in a god or gods? An atheist will respond with, no. This is because the question was asking for whether the person had a belief in a god or gods or not. When asked, does a god or gods exist? Atheism can no longer answer this question. This question has to be answered with either agnosticism or Gnosticism. Please move on with your argument.
Else you're just plainly delusional. Any word that has a suffix of ist or ism applied to it cannot be a default position, first off. Secondly, well, first off, I'm going to explain why. Because these things are labels of a belief or a shared belief, okay? Which means that you are required, a person that has these labels, they are required to have knowledge and understanding about their belief, okay? Or their shared belief. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the suffix of ist or and ism applied to their beliefs in the label.
Well, you are, of course, forgetting the word agnosticism, which is the default position of, I don't know.
Second, defining atheist as lack of belief is only in the interpretation of disbelief and denial because, again, it is on the same definition line.
Sorry, that was sort of incoherent. Please define definition line and elaborate on what you mean. I had trouble understanding what it meant.
There's not a diverse meaning stated that says that it is without knowledge of. Okay? So, you're wrong on that. Third, lack of belief does not mean without knowledge of. Okay? In order for you to lack a belief, you would at least have to know something about what you're lacking belief in.
Not necessarily. I lack belief in a flying pink unicorn orbiting Saturn, and I don't need to know that there is definitively one there or not. A lack of belief due to lack of evidence is called the null hypothesis. I would wager that you would also not believe in this flying pink unicorn orbiting Saturn. But I would never ask you to prove that a unicorn really does not orbit Saturn, because you have not made any claim that one definitively does not exist. This same exact principle goes for deities.
But to be ignorant, that's what? All babies are ignorant. It's just it. At birth, every baby on this planet is ignorant of anything that is a belief or a shared belief that has a label that has a suffix of ist or ism on it. That's freaking impossible unless you were born a mutated brain baby. And I don't think that anybody has been born like that, where you have this super knowledge of just about anything as to where you can apply an ist or an ism to the baby's point of view. To see how utterly freaking retarded that whole thing is about what people are trying to do. And personally, I think that it's because that they can't win a debate. They want it so bad. These types, they want it so bad that people believe them because they believe God doesn't exist. And
I've actually seen atheists win debates before, and they were pretty spectacular. I do not think that the atheist community is still hungry for winning. Just saying.
they're trying to cover up this disbelief because basically being confronted about it. So they want to hold the neutral ground position, the middle ground. That doesn't make you an atheist. If you lack knowledge of, well, it would make you an atheist if you still lack belief in God, but it'd make you an ignorant atheist if you lack knowledge of God.
Thank you. You finally get it. You finally get what an agnostic atheist is. I do not introduce myself as an agnostic atheist because it's just a waste of syllables. The reason why I say that I'm just a straight atheist instead of an agnostic atheist is because most people, when they ask the question, which leads me to that answer, they're asking the question, do you believe in a god or gods? So I then just say, no, I'm an atheist. It's that simple.
This whole thing is the most retarded thing the atheists have ever come up with. It's the most absurd thing the atheists have propagated on the internet. I hope that people are not that gullible and stupid to fall for this bullshit. That's the absolute truth. This whole thing is just bullshit. I'm done with it. I wash my hands of it. I wash my hands of these people that say this shit because they are not mentally stable. They're delusional because they believe a lie.
Well, that was insulting, calling me mentally unstable. For a second there, it sounded like you were going to ad hominem me, but at least you just insulted me.
Can't believe people are freaking equivocating lack of belief with lack of knowledge of. It's amazing. And these people think that they're smarter than religious people.
And you dropped the ball. I had such high hopes that you would realize that no one was equating lack of belief and lack of knowledge. Serves me right for getting my hopes up.
I should have been a psychiatrist. Because then I'd be one rich motherfucker.
Well, that ends the source video. This video response was kind of like talking to a brick wall, in that Bruce could never understand that no one was positing that a lack of belief and a lack of knowledge were the same thing. So, thank you for watching my YouTube video, and do not forget to rate and critique the video. If you liked it, subscribe for more, and leave Bruce and others like him with a question. If you were to say that a god, specifically yours, exists, would you not be making a claim of knowledge over the existence of a god or gods, shifting the burden of proof over to you? So, thank you, and good day.